The Leaders Coach podcast is about connecting leaders to an identity that will help transform their leadership by engaging in conversations that lead to opportunities for growth, authenticity, and vulnerability. As we're unlocked, we simultaneously empower others to live and lead unique and authentic lives. Let's go deeper. Welcome to the Leaders Coach podcast with Dr. Shanita Brown. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Leaders Coach with Dr. Shanita Brown. Hope you guys have had a fantastic week, fantastic day. It's so good to be back with you all on this episode. For those who have been tuning in and you've been listening, we are at season 3 of the Leaders Coach podcast. February the 26th will make 1 year that we have been on air, and I'm super excited about it. So this episode, for those who have been tuning in for season 3, you know that we've been talking about self-awareness. And so we've been talking about different types of self-awareness. And so today we have a special guest, and our topic today is around that ego versus excellence. It's around being self-aware of when an ego is showing up and how that relates to excellence and humility and different things like that. And so I'm excited to have this guest on my show. This is my sister. You guys are hearing the interview. We go way back, and I want you guys to engage with us. I want you guys to tell us what your thoughts are. I want you guys to talk to us and let us know what it is that you are thinking and your thoughts about this particular show. You guys can hit us up on our Instagram by going to the Leaders Coach Pod. That's the Leaders Coach Pod. Also our website, theleaderscoachpodcast.com. You guys can email us at leaderscoach@ShanitaBrown.com. You guys can follow me personally on my social medias at Dr. Shanita_Brown. That's on Instagram. Also Dr. Shanita_Brown on TikTok and on Twitter, which is now X. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your opinions, and let us know if this episode was a blessing to you. And not only that, make sure you share this episode. Share this episode with somebody, because again, we're trying to talk about that self-awareness. We're working with that leader aspect. Again, the Leaders Coach is about leading ourselves first and guiding ourselves first in the way we think, feel, and the way we choose. And so I know you guys are going to be blessed by this. I was extremely blessed by it. So this is my sister, Dr. Dwalunda Alexander. And so you guys are in for a treat. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Leaders Coach with Dr. Shanita Brown. Y'all already know how it is. This is season 3, and I'm so excited that you guys are joining me with the great things that we're doing, the great things that are happening. And so, you know, I'm just excited about everything. You guys been rocking with me all these seasons. And so I'm telling y'all, like I told y'all a few weeks ago, we have phenomenal guests. And this guest right here, I got so much I can say about this woman of God. So much, but I'm going to leave that for the interview. This right here is my sister. We've been knowing each other for a long time, like 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. Like what the old folks say, we go back like a Cadillac with 4 flats. And so we've been riding for each other. And so I love her so much. And so let me introduce her to you. Let me introduce her to the world. If you hadn't heard of her, I don't know where you've been. You probably been like under a rock or something like that. But this is my sister right here. So let me go ahead and knock this out, because y'all know I have the best of the best right here on the Leaders Coach. So introducing the song, and if you don't know, shame on you. This is Reverend Dr. Dwalunda Alexander. She was born in H-Town, that's Houston, Texas. She graduated from Texas Southern University with her Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology in 2005. Then she moved on down here to Fort Worth, Texas in 2005. She attended Bright Divinity School on the campus of Texas Christian University, where she received her Master's of Divinity with a concentration in Black Church Studies in 2008. Then she went on to earn a Doctor of Ministry in Preaching from Lincoln Christian University in 2021. Dr. Alexander is the founder of the Preaching in Purple. She is a womanist in the womanist space for centering the theological voices and thoughts of Black women. She done taught taught y'all kids. She is a seasoned K through 12 educator who works for the TEA. That's the Texas Education Agency. And I just believe she's going to be running that thing one day. Dr. Alexander currently serves as the associate pastor over at Chosen Ministerial Alliance and Congregational Care at the Chosen Vessel Church, where her pastor is the one and only Bishop Marvin L. Sapp. Never would have made it. That's her pastor, y'all. So in her free time, she loves being with her family, her friends, and of course, hanging out with me on the Leaders Coach podcast. And she loves serving her community through her sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together for none other than the one and only Dr. Dwalunda Alexander. How you doing, sis?
Oh my gosh, what's going on, sis? I'm good. I'm over here cracking up. Oh man, but I am doing good. I am honored, grateful to be here. I told you earlier, I've arrived. When I get invited to the Leaders Coach podcast, I really and truly have arrived.
You arrived
in the presence
man.
of the one and only Dr. Shanita Brown.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm honored to even have you as a guest right here on the show. And so I thank you taking time out your busy schedule with all the many hats that you wear. And she can sing too. She should have put that in her bio. She's a singer. So you guys got to catch her on Facebook. She'll give her information a little later. She can sing. She be up there singing for Jesus. She get that one hand up and you got to just see it. She just goes in. And so
yeah, you've been with me a long time.
A long time. We've been a long time. We can go all the way back down memory lane. Like I said, y'all, we've been knowing each other for a very long time. And she's been such a important part in my life, and I just thank God for her. Thank God for her ministry. I thank God for her testimony. I thank God for her ups and her downs, because it has truly made her who she is today. And so we're not gonna get all sentimental. We're gonna go ahead and jump into this real quick. And so, as you guys know, I have a segment on the show called What Inspired You. So I always tell y'all what inspired me. And so this new season, we're going to just talk about, I'm going to ask my guests that same question. What inspired them? What inspired them this week, this day, this year? I don't know. What is it for you? And just share with our audience real briefly, what is it that has inspired you, Dr. Alexander?
So I think launching like into this year, and so I say this year because it is the thing that wakes me up every morning, right, and keeps me going. What inspires me is honestly seeing how I can wake up every day and positively impact someone else's life. And so getting the opportunity to pray for someone, impart into someone, and it's not about me, right? It is genuinely about, God, what assignment have you set me on today to positively inspire someone else?
Yeah.
And so whether it's on my 9 to 5, whether it's in church ministry leadership, saying something that somebody comes back and they're like, you know what, Pastor D, Dr. D, when you said X, Y, and Z, that encouraged me to go do this thing. Or when you presented the word in this way, that inspired me to go do this thing. Like that's my drive, like every day. How can I plant a seed in somebody, or how can I water a seed that's already been planted so that God ultimately is getting the glory out of their life and out of their story? And like, if I can inspire one person, I'm cool. Like that's it for me.
Yeah.
So it's truly about other people for me.
Wow, that's good. I like that. How you just waking up and say, how can I impart something into somebody else? How can I impact somebody else's life? Oh man, that's amazing. And it just gives us a segue into, that's why she's the perfect person for our topic tonight. As you guys been knowing, we've been talking about self-awareness. So this season is the season of self-awareness. If you guys go back to the other episodes so you can learn more about what I've been teaching about self-awareness. But tonight we're going to be talking about ego versus excellence. Oh my, this is the episode about humility and leadership, and none other than Dr. Dwalunda. I'm telling y'all, just being a woman in ministry, a woman out here doing things, and just being a woman, just seeing so much. And we're going to just talk about that. So real quick, let's talk about, let's start with this, because I think that this will be a good starting point. What's your definition of humility? Let's start there.
Okay. So my definition of humility is how you view your own importance. And really it's a modest way, right? Not grandeur, way of viewing your own importance. And so when you show up in a space and in a place, are you showing up from the seat of genuinely wanting to engage others with the best version of yourself, or are you showing up with an inflated right self-importance and self-perspective, like people are supposed to yield to you when you show up in the room. You have to have a realistic view of your own importance. That's how I look at humility.
I like that. It's good. You got something else you want to
Yeah.
say, doctor? Because you got this look on your face and you want to go deeper.
Because like you, and I know we're going to get there, right? A lot of people look at humility and they can confuse it with you minimizing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's not at all what's happening. I am fully aware, right, of who I am, who God has graced and called me to be. And I think everybody needs to wake up every morning with their affirmations, whatever it is that you need, do your self check and be grateful and ground yourself. And like, no, I know who I am and who God has created me to be. And that's okay to have self-worth, right? It's okay to have self-value. You don't have to minimize yourself in order for others to not view you as overly, I'm not even going to say overly. You don't want others to view you as self-centered, and they shouldn't view you as self-centered just because you know who you are.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to minimize yourself to still be a humble person.
Yeah, that's good. And people do get that confused. They think, oh, because I'm humble, I have to think less of myself. No, it doesn't mean you're thinking bad of yourself. You just think, like I tell my students all the time, it's like you're not thinking of yourself much all the time. Like you're considering other people, considering other things, right? And just get your mind off of yourself. And so I love that. And I love the way you said, see, that's why she's a doctor right there. That was beautifully spoken. These are earned degrees, by the way. Let me go on.
Listen.
Okay. So even with that being said, how does humility create space for growth in learning and even better decision making? How can that create space for that?
So for me, like, because I have a realistic view of my own importance and I know who I am, then for me, that also means understanding the role that I play and the part that I play in the bigger picture of life. So when it comes to creating space for growth, for example, I am never at the ceiling. There's always got to be something that I can learn from somebody else. There's always got to be something to where I am willing. We talk about it in education, growth mindset. It's become a buzzword, but it's a very real thing, that I should always be mentoring someone, but also should be mentored at the same time. So there's always room and opportunity to grow and learn from others. And then when you talk about your decision making, because I understand who I am, or because we all should understand who we are as a part of a bigger picture, then my decisions, I understand, affects everyone around me. It affects everything that I'm connected to. So if, like I said, if it's on my 9 to 5 with TEA, whatever I'm doing with one of my team members is going to affect all of these school districts, all of these campuses, all of these students that I'm responsible for. At the church, with my role of being responsible for 40 plus ministers, every decision I make within the mission and vision of that church concerning the ministerial alliance is going to affect every part that's connected. And so when you operate with like this sense of, God, you have granted me the opportunity to do something so big and so great. So when I make a decision concerning this thing and understanding the ripple effect, it puts you in a position to say, God, I don't want to miss.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, it can't be about me. It can't be about my own, just my perspective, my thoughts, my processing, but how does this fit into the bigger picture?
Wow. That's good. You said a mouthful right there. I like that because that is so true. Just humbling yourself, because I know sometimes when I'm praying and I want my way, my will, like, God, I want this. I have to humble myself. Like, hold on, Lord, you know better than I do. You know the plans that you have for me. I gotta humble myself a little bit, because I do and sometimes think of, oh no, what I got is more important than. Sometimes you unconsciously think that than what the Lord. And so I like how you were just talking about just being in those spaces and knowing who you are and just humbling yourself under just that authority. But it comes having an authority that you are submitted to in order to humble yourself. You can't humble yourself under your own self.
Listen, when I realize the bigness of God, when we do talk about minimizing ourselves, now that's one presence that I do say, little old me.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, that's true. Because I was like, I don't know, I can't create no mountain. I don't know how to do that. But that's so true. So now that we got a good understanding of humility, let's go to this opposite word, ego. Oh man, this ego word. So tell us a little bit about, from your standpoint, just definition about ego. What is that ego?
So to me, when you're looking at ego, right, as the counter to humility, you're talking about that inflated sense of self-importance. So, like we talked about with humility, that's my view of my importance, and and having a modest view, not weak, not lack of confidence, but modest. But when we shift over onto that other side, that is where you center yourself, your thoughts, your ways, you center yourself so much to the extent that it is a overinflated sense of self-importance. That's how I look at ego. And phew, okay, I'm trying to.
I know my sister thinking of a
right.
story right now. She thinking of
Because when you walk in the room with I'm actually thinking of a song like, Beyonce plays in my head sometimes, Big Ego. And
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
But when you walk into a room and you don't just walk into the place saying, no, I belong here, like I'm taking up space because I do belong in this room, but you walk into the room saying everybody should be bowed to me because do they know who I am? That's problematic. Yeah. That is just a sense of self that is so far inflated and so far above and beyond. It's like we need the little pin to pop your bubble, and remind you you're not the only great person in the world. Yeah, right.
That's good. That's good.
So yeah.
Yeah, we need when you said pop your bubble, we need an additional Christian edition of pop that balloon.
Listen. Listen.
Hold on. Pop.
Bring it down a notch.
Yes, because I know, just in your experience and just in life, you've seen that a lot, right? And so, where do you see ego most often show up in leaders? And then, how do you feel that quietly limits excellence? So, two questions. So, where do you see that ego most often show up in leaders? And it could be in any sphere that you would like to share. And how does that quietly limit excellence? Because sometimes, before we answer that question, let me go back. So we talked about humility, ego. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about excellence, and then we go circle back around to the question, because I want to give the people a good foundation of where we're trying to go.
So excellence is not the thing that you are constantly striving towards, in a sense. It is the goal, it is the mark, and so it is how you should constantly operate. I think that if we, say, because I hear people say, I'm striving towards excellence. But if your processes aren't excellent while you're trying to reach that particular goal, or you're trying to hit that particular mark, you're not moving and operating in excellence towards excellence. So we typically miss the processes. I've got to refine my processes for where it is that I say that I'm trying to go. Yeah. If I know, like I say, prime example, working in my 9 to 5, my goal is to not have any campuses, any districts that are F-rated. That's my goal. Mm-hmm. Well, I can say, that's the mark, that's the excellence, right? But there are a lot of processes that we have to go through to get there. We've got to look at your leadership. We've got to look at your classroom instruction. We've got to look at student data set. I'm talking to an educator, so right? Like there is a process to get there. And if those things aren't refined, and if we're not operating with the sense of excellence in the process, then why are we talking about the promise? Now I got to flip it over to the spiritual side, right? Because how do I think I'm supposed to get to the promises of God that are set up for me, and I'm raggedy in the way that I'm trying to get there?
Come on now. Come on. Humble yourself. No, that's good.
Humble yourself.
Yes. Wow. No.
And get in alignment.
Yes. Yes. So exactly. And it goes just like what you said, just just positioning yourself and I heard somebody say this a long time ago, that excellence is long obedience in the same direction.
Oh, that's
Long
good.
obedience in the same direction, because you were talking about the processes. So we can't be ragging in our
Mhm.
processes. In your words of excellence is in a nutshell is that goal or that mark, right? We got to, how are we doing that? We got to make sure this process is right. We got to make sure this data is right. And so just that long obedience. But sometimes people, they want to get out of that long obedience, but that brings out the excellence. And in order for us to continue to be excellence, we have to humble ourselves, because sometimes it gets hard and we just want to do what we want to do. That goes back to, I'm more important. What I have to do is more important than what the vision or what the goal may be. And so, all right, let me
Yeah.
move on. So let's go. Let's go forward. So, where do you see ego most often show up in leaders? Since we got a foundation now.
Looking for title and recognition, and not recognition in the sense of value and worth, right? Like, I 100% believe in recognizing your leaders, recognizing their contributions, like honor that, especially when it's volunteer work
Yeah.
and they doing it for free, especially in that sense. Honor the work and them showing up, and them choosing to be a part of this bigger picture and this bigger goal, like honor that. But typically, um, when we see leaders looking for, like I say, title, position, and recognition, it is because there is some sense of grandeur in their mind that says, "Why didn't I get that title? Why didn't I get that license? Why didn't I get that position? Don't they know who I am? My prayer life, Jesus and me are best friends. We be on the phone 24/7. Don't they know that I can preach, I can teach, I can sing, I can do?" And it's like, that's exactly why you're not being
Come on
recognized,
now.
because you're worried about the I. And your I does not fit into this us community
That's good.
vision goal that we're moving towards. Nobody has time to deal with your what? Your ego. When we have
Come on now.
a process that we are trying to work to get towards what God has in store for us. And so I usually see it there, man, where,
Yeah.
ooh, you start seeing, jealousy and envy start showing up and coming out in all through sense of ego. You start seeing defensiveness, insecurity, comparison, competition, all of that starts coming out because of ego. And that's where I tend to see it the most.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. And even when you see that come out, that ego come out the most in those areas that you named, do you think in your professional uh, mindset, your outlook, do you feel that sometimes, do you think that that could be one or two things? Number one, you think that can be like God saying, all right, this is the area you need to work in? Or do you think number two, it could just be where it's us just that our sense of I is coming out. So twofold. Do you think it's God exposing, or do you think or can it be God exposing, or can it just also be us just being quote unquote us, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I think that God can absolutely use moments to expose areas in us that we need to work on. I've like been a living witness of that. Like, hey, I recently just knew I had something in the bag, right? Because hey, the good doctor can be guilty too.
Yeah,
So I was
yeah.
like, I got that. I know I got that. And I didn't get that. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. You got to go back and do a self check of, why was I so confident in this particular area? And was it because that was really for me? Or did I just assume because of the connections, the people, all of that, that I had that in the bag? Like, what's the real root of why I felt that way about that particular thing? And I'm just a big fan of self-checking, right? And so I think it does start, and it does matter, that God can expose things to show us something about ourselves. And then also, because we are humans, we are flesh with free will, sometimes it's just us getting outside of, getting out of character. And so, when you do that self check, you can determine, like, what was this? Was this just me being in my flesh tripping out? Or is this something that God is showing me like, no, that's a real area in you that you need to refine and work on?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Like you said, I think it can be a two-way street that God exposes, and he does it for our benefit. To be like, hey, look, what you need to what you need to look at. And so I think that's a good segue to, because you might, good doctor. Some people might say, well, good doctor, earlier you said, hey, say your affirmations, know who you are, those things. But how do I do that and still stand in who I am without the big ego? Because I know that I'm a child of God. I know that I am made righteous through the blood of Jesus Christ. I know that I'm seated in heavenly places through Christ. I know these things, so I'm walking in these things. How can that, I'm puffing myself up because that's who I am in the Lord. But you're talking about an ego. So tell me, so help us understand. You see where I'm going, Dr. Pastor? Help me understand, Dr. Pastor Educator.
Well, you said the key thing, because I know who I am in God.
That's it.
And that's the defining factor. Like, that's the line right there. If I think that I've got control of this thing called life in and of myself, and I think that my opportunities and the doors that I walk through, that I somehow created them, if I ever was to think that my degrees were the reason why, like, yeah, go get educated because you need to have the tools. But please believe the Lord told me to go get the degrees to have the tools,
That's
because
good.
the Lord knew the door that the Lord was going to send me through. God knew the door that God would open for me. And I'm not going to send my child in there unprepared.
Yeah.
And so you can be all of these things, but like we said, the defining factor is it's in God. And so it's in God that I move and have my being, that I live, move, and have my being. So the moment that I think that it's in me,
Yeah.
that I live, move, and have my being, that's where ego comes in. That's where I am questioning. And you said something so good earlier. That's where I am not submitted at that point to the power that's the authority over my life. I am somehow self-submitted. And there is no, we know, right, like, ultimately there is no prize
Yeah.
in self-submission.
Yeah.
You're gonna be out there floating on a boat
Yeah.
by yourself.
Yeah. By yourself.
And so, rooted in God, you gotta be rooted in God.
That's good. And I think for those who are really rooted in God, because God will check you a little bit, because it'd be like my sister. She be like, oh, I cooked this, and I'll be like, God, I gotta keep you humble. It was all right, so I did this, and rightfully so, because we are co-laborers with the Lord. It is a participation on our part, but just remembering that, hey, you wouldn't have none of this if it wasn't for the Lord, allowing us to even do this.
Allowing.
Yeah. And so that's where that pride sense come in, like, and God sometimes, again, has to pop that balloon and humble us to get us where we're going. And so how can leaders check their ego without losing their voice or authority? Because, I'm going to leave it like that. How can leaders check their ego without losing their voice or authority? Because that's a fine line sometimes, especially for women leaders.
Oh man. I got something to say about that too. So I'll say, like, prime example, right? With, I mentioned earlier that I am responsible for over 40 ministers with Ministerial Alliance. Like, that's my job: training, teaching, scheduling, like, all the things, right? And there is that piece of you that could be like, oh, I'm in charge. There's that mindset for those who don't understand, like, this is what you get to do because God allowed you to. And so you get to do this because God allowed you to. And so there is that sense of balancing, that while I understand that I've been placed in a position of authority and I have that voice of authority, the humility in which I use to communicate with people, the way in which I make sure that I check my tone, my body language, my posture, my facial expressions, that I'm operating from a place of pure love, for real, for these people, that I can say something that's a directive. I can say that this is what needs to happen, but it's the way in which I communicate it that lets them know that, yes, I need to do this thing because my leader has said that I need to do this thing. but she's not bossing me around.
Yeah.
It's not coming from this place of she thinks she runs me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think that checking that part of yourself, first of all, if you are certain and confident and you are sure in your leadership skills and ability, you don't have to bully people through ego into doing anything. So your voice and your authority carry weight simply because you are called to this position, you are called to this
Mm-hmm.
thing, and because you understand that you are on assignment by God.
That's good.
And so you don't have to, like I say, it's bullying through ego is what I see sometimes. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. You carry the weight of the authority of it simply because that's how God, has created it.
Yeah, that's good. I like that you said bullying through ego, and Chad, you see that so much, bullying through ego. But it's bullying through ego that you bossing people around, it's intimidation and jealousy and all that stuff like that. But it's when
All of that.
yes, that humble leadership to where it draws people to you, to where the authority that you have in the Lord, the excellence that you have, it just draws people to you, and you don't have to do all that because that's ego. That's not excellence. That's not us getting to the goal. That's not what that is. And so, sis, you said something right there. Bullying through ego. That needs to be on a shirt or something. That needs to be on a shirt.
Like, you better check that thing
Yeah.
before God check you. Like,
No,
don't
for
do
real.
that.
For real, because
Don't mishandle God's people like that.
yeah, because there's some people that I know that want to be in leadership position. I said, see that right there? That's why you ain't there. That's what I want to say sometimes. But, I say, Lord, humble me. Humble me. Because we want to tell these folks. So let's get a little candid right now. So can you share a moment when choosing humility over ego changed your leadership for the better? Just like a personal testament of the great doctor when you chose humility over ego and how that help change your leadership for the better.
Absolutely. I am, admittedly, I'm a type A personality. I'm a perfectionist. I know that about myself. And, I'm like, okay, Lord, you got to help me keep that in check, right? Because that can even cause a negative display when that's not in check. So thank God for Jesus and therapy.
Hallelujah.
Um, Look, because I'm a perfectionist, and so I strive to always be right. Like that's the thing with me. I gotta be right. I can't mess it up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was serving in one of my district leadership roles, I got something really wrong, like communicated it flat out wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk, district business and data and all of that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I was like straight up wrong
Mm-hmm.
with what I communicated to this particular team at this campus. And I don't know if you've ever felt that feeling like, I'm getting ready to have to say I'm wrong. I was wrong. And there's like that thing in the back of your throat that tries to catch it because you just feel like, am I
Yes.
really getting ready to have to let the words come out of my mouth that I was wrong?
Come on, humility.
And listen, because your mind will say, well, just try to spin it. Well, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that you were necessarily wrong. It was just
Mm-hmm.
that, no, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And so I had to go into that team that morning and say, listen, y'all, deep swallow, right? Like deep breath. Whew. I was wrong. I said something to you all that I should not have said
Yeah.
based on some information that was not right. And I was wrong. I owe you all an apology because we set out a plan that is totally anti the direction we need to be going. And that's my fault because I've had y'all now working for some days on something that you shouldn't have even been working on. I was wrong. And owning when you are wrong as a leader does something for people to see you in a place of vulnerability and willingness to own your stuff.
Yeah.
You become a leader that they are more willing to trust and follow because, okay, this person isn't trying to pretend that they're perfect. They aren't trying to pretend that they dot every I and cross every T. They're not coming in here trying to shift blame. They're not coming in here trying to do anything like that. She just sat in that seat, looked us in our eyes around this table, and flat out said she was wrong. She apologizes, and now let me help us get back on track.
Yeah.
That was a moment for me that took my level, when you talk about your voice, trusted voice and authority with that team, to a whole other level. Because I had a teacher who had been kicking and fighting and screaming like against me the whole time I was there
Yeah.
until that moment.
Wow.
That moment opened the door where she was like, you know what? I guess you are right. Let me go on and see what you're talking about.
Come on and teach us here. Teach
Look,
us.
it operates in whatever setting you're in as a leader. People need to know that they can trust you, that you're not going to shift blame on them, that you're not going to walk around acting like you're perfect. It's the same thing with pastors, people who are looking for church. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for what's real because I can trust what's real.
That's good, and that's what I work with. I work with these seniors, child, and I've told them over these 4 years. I say I apologize when I'm wrong. It ain't got nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with who I serve, and I'm accountable to an authority that's greater than me. Because sometimes they be like, "Oh, you apologize," but bring it down. But I'm gonna do it because I am accountable. Because sometimes they be like, "Oh, you apologize," like, girl. It's because of the authority that I am submitted to. Trust
Listen,
me. Yes. And so that's real true. And so just one more real quick question. Then I want you to talk about preaching in purple and give your information. And so this question will be so we're women in ministry. So when women in ministry operate in excellence, confidence, and authority, can that sometimes be perceived as arrogance or ego? And our ego. You tell us, good doctor.
This is my sweet spot right here. I am a firm believer that there are, I'm not gonna say a lot, I'm gonna say some people.
A lot. No, let me say, I got you. I said for you.
There are a number of people who operate with this built-in filter called sexism. And so it only allows them to see men as leaders. And so when they envision the leader of a business or the pastor of a church or the CEO, the CFO, the CEO, when they envision that person, they automatically see a man. And so all of the characteristics that comes along with that's not problematic for them because they are automatically envisioning that person as a man. So when a woman walks in the room and she is exhibiting those same characteristics, now those things are problematic. Now she's aggressive. Now she's arrogant. Now who does she think she is to come in here and try to tell us? But if a man was doing it,
come on now,
you would have no problem. And she's not using any kind of tone or attitude, or there's none of that coming with it. She can come in with a smile on her face. I can come in with a smile on my face. Just the most pleasant person you have ever met. Sweet, sweet, sweet as sugar pie. But somehow you're going to find a way to perceive that as problematic because for a lot of people, leadership equals man. And so what I always say to the women in ministry who I mentor, what I, discuss with the women in ministry who mentor me is that you are 100% allowed to operate in the way that God has called you to operate.
Yeah.
The anchor is making sure, right, that you don't have a nasty attitude, that you really aren't any of those things that people say that you are. Because sometimes that happens too, where because we've had to claw and fight our way into positions and get through sexism and get through misogyny and all of this, we've had to claw and fight. Sometimes you build a hard exterior. That makes you come in there a little on the defense, like, hey, let's get something straight out the gate.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens, but you cannot allow people and experiences to turn you into that. Move in the grace of who God made you. Move in your authenticity of who God made you. And you're allowed to be confident. You're allowed to operate in the spirit of excellence. You are allowed to show up in your God-given authority, and don't allow someone to perceive your good as bad.
Yeah. No, that's good, sis. I mean, we could talk all up and through there because you do get, I mean, I got stories for days, just all because you're confident. They be like, oh, this and that, just start having their own perception, their own thoughts, and their own opinions about certain things. Oh, boldness, because they're not used to seeing women being bold, standing their ground, knowing what they want. Again, those are looked at as masculine traits. And so when they see women, it's like, whoa, oh, she's angry or she's aggressive.
All of that. It's like, no, I just know what I'm talking about. And that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. And that's okay. And so we can go all the way through that. But tell us a little bit more about Preaching in Purple, some of the projects you have coming up, just your womanist things. Just tell us about how people can get in contact and stay connected with the great Dr. Dwalunda Alexander.
Absolutely. So Preaching in Purple, that is my digital space across social media platforms. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok as myself, just under Dwalunda Alexander. But you can find me on all the platforms. And what I have been blessed to do over about the last we're in 2026 now. So the last 6 years is give different voice to biblical interpretation. It's looking through a theological lens that does center the voices and experiences of Black women. Womanism says that we are centered first because typically in this society we've been centered last. And so we center our voices and our experiences first. And then we extend out to our community, to our brothers, to our children, and then beyond that. But it is a place and space for receiving, like I say, a different lens through which to view biblical interpretation, to hear theological positions and stances. I tell people, I don't bring you here, and I get this from the Reverend Dr. Howard John Wesley, I don't bring you here to think like me. I just bring you here into a place and space for us to think. Let's look at scripture differently. Let's hear from different voices that you may have never heard before. Let's read from different texts that maybe you've never read before. And let's have a conversation around maybe potentially having to undo some things that you've believed about what Bible said, and then you discovered it really didn't say that. And so that's Preaching in Purple. This year has been really focused on, and is going to continue to be focused on, mentoring. I've had a lot of women who have shifted my lens with Preaching in Purple, with coming for the mentorship. So we're looking in July 2026. You're hearing it first, for the poor. July of this year, the poor. And I'm going to just leave it at that. Y'all need to make sure you're following all platforms so you can learn about the poor.
Well, y'all heard it from Dr. Dwalunda Alexander. Thank you so much, sis, for being on the Leaders Coach podcast with me. I really appreciate it. And you guys make sure you stay in contact with Dr. Dwalunda. You can find anything that you need on Preaching in Purple. Is it preachinginpurple.com?
Yep. They can come to preachinginpurple.com, and like I say, find me on any of the social media platforms, Preaching in Purple.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, y'all stay tuned, stay up, stay blessed. This is the Leaders Coach podcast with Dr. Shanita Brown. This has been the Leaders Coach podcast with Dr. Shanita Brown.